Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second of 4 brown bag trainings for reporting year 2022 eAR. My name's Wendy, and I'm going to be your moderator today. Today we're going to be focusing on sections 5, 6, and 7. And provide a little bit of detail in regards to the drought reporting requirements. Today's presenters include myself, Gabriela Gutierrez, Jonathan Schwady, Stephen Burke, who are all a part of your eAR customer service team, and Eric Soniga, who is a part of he's our drought coordinator for the Division of Drinking Water. And he'll be talking about drought reporting requirements and section 5 and 6, and our other presenters will be providing all the other information. So just a few ways to participate today. There's 2 ways. There's a Q&A button on your toolbar, and you can submit a question, and you can also upvote that question if you'd like it answered. We'll be answering questions and answers at the end of this training presentation. A second way to ask a question or a comment or provide a comment is to raise your hand, and we will unmute you and you can share your comment or question. We ask that you please wait for your name to be called. And comments and questions are limited to 3 minutes for each participant. So some key topics we'd like to cover today is some eAR informational items, basically a summary of items that we feel you all should still know in case you weren't here for our first brown bag training that was provided 2 weeks ago. And then Eric Soniga will be providing information on sections 5, which is source information, and section 6, which is supply and delivery information. Section 7, recycled water, will be provided by Stephen Burke. And then Eric Soniga will be providing some information about drought reporting requirements. And then we will be wrapping up with comments and questions. So I am going to hand the mic over to Jonathan Schwady, and he's going to provide some information on key eAR information.
All right. Thank you, Wendy. So yes, like Wendy was mentioning, I'm just going to go over some review of informational items that were talked about last. The first brown bag. So starting off with dates of interest, we're going to have of course, the eAR release date was March 13th. The deadline is going to be May 13th. That first brown bag took place March 22nd. And then the current one, April 5th, the 5, 6, 7 drought requirements, which is obviously the one that is enduring right now. And then the next brown bag, number 3, which is going to be section 8, is going to be April 19th. Followed by the last brown bag, number 4, which is going to cover sections 9 through 18. Its submission, that it can be May 3rd. And note that the eAR technical assistance request deadline is going to be April 14th. Next slide. All right. So the eAR website, this is rehauled for this year. This is going to be the electronic annual report website where you can find a bunch of information. Off to the right-hand side there, you can see the important dates and events that I just went over. And then most of the content is going to be covered in that red box, which is going to be into the Learn More. You see 4 tiles there, which is going to be login and reporting information, background and frequently asked questions, eAR technical assistance, resources, as well as eAR data downloads. Now I'll go into each one of those. We'll give a summary of each what's inside of those. Next slide. All right, so that first tile is going to be login and reporting information. Here is where you can access the report. So you have the 2 bullet points there, as you can see, is log into the eAR portal, as well as the eAR user guide. Now, it also covers brief summary of what's inside each section. So if you want any information about that, this is where you would go to access the eAR portal, like I mentioned, as well as the user guide. Now, the user guide is going to be found in a couple other sections, and I will go over those as well. Next slide. All right, so this second tile is going to be background and frequently asked questions. And here you're going to be able to find a history of the annual report, the stakeholders, and a bunch of just information that's goes back about the history of it and why it's required and all those sorts of things. So check out here if you have any, if you're interested. Next slide. All right, next we're going to cover the eAR technical assistance resources. And this covers self-guided resources as well as regulator assistance. Under self-guided resources, you can see here that first bullet point is going to be the eAR user guidance document. Tips about the help tips, training bag recordings, and they eventually come and we upload them, procedure documents, tutorial videos, and a whole bunch of information that helps you fill out that eAR. Next slide, please. All right. And last is going to be this last tile is going to be the eAR data download. Now here you can find data compiled from the year 2013 to present. If you have any, if you want to know eAR data going back that far, here's where you can go to download it and access it and take a look. Next slide. All right, getting into the user guidance document and frequently asked questions. These are 2 documents that were created to help you fill out your eAR. Starting off with the user guidance document here. What does it contain? This is a snapshot of the table of contents. So you can see here what kind of content it covers. First-time registration. If you want to associate yourself with the water system, to report on it, returning users, new users, uploading documents, all kinds of information. So take a look here when you're filling out your eAR, especially for the first time. This was what it was created for. So hopefully it's helpful. Next slide. So where can you find it? So there's a couple locations. The first one is going to be under that third tile, eAR Technical Assistance Resources. You select that on the home page. It'll take you, it'll open up, and then that first bullet point is going to be the eAR user guidance document hyperlink. So if you select that hyperlink as shown by that red arrow, that'll take you to the document, and you should be good to go. Next slide. All right, so what's new for this document? So it is geared towards first-time users that are creating an eAR for the first time. It was put in the steps format to make creating an eAR for the first time easier and more intuitive. So as you can see here off to the right, a little snapshot of the first couple steps. If you're a new user, step 1 is, for example, go to the web portal. Step 2, register and log in, and it gives you steps and information on how to do that. Next slide. All right, so if you're already in the eAR portal, you can also find the user guidance document and frequently asked questions, which I'll go over here as well. So you don't have to go back and forth between the main homepage and then also the portal. So there's the links there, right? When you log in under eAR reporting, you should have all those links as well. All right, next slide. All right, so frequently asked questions is another document that was created to help you help reporters, and it has a bunch of general information, navigation and access, revision and completion process, and uses of data, and all kinds of stuff. So this is information that was gathered over the years of frequently asked questions. So if you're filling out the eAR and you have any questions about if you get stuck, refer to this document, and hopefully you can find out what you're looking for. And of course, if you don't find any help here in your specific issue, you can always email us for any questions. Next slide. All right, and where can you find the frequently asked questions document? If you go back to the homepage, like the eAR homepage, that second tile is going to be background and frequently asked questions. If you select that tile, it's going to drop it down, and you're going to be able to find your frequently asked questions as shown by the red arrow there at the bottom. All right, I think that covers it. Eric, take it away.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I am Eric Zuniga. I'm the Drought Response Program Manager for the Division of Drinking Water. And I wanted to present on section 5 and section 6, especially how it relates to some of the changes that are coming and how we are reporting these fields. So I'm going to start with the first slide, which is just talking in general about, in 2024, right now we're reporting for the year 2022, and the year 2022 is already passed. That season is now being reported this year. But for 2024 eAR, the data for sections 5 and 6 are intended to be reported in the clearinghouse for all public water systems. Currently, right now, all community water systems and non-transient non-community water systems that are schools are already monitoring in the clearinghouse starting in January 2023. And so they started in January so that we can have that data in there so that next year, that would be your reporting for section 6 and also section 5. By the end of the year, we'll have section 5 in there as well. So by the end of the year, it is planned for all the public water systems, including transient and non-transient non-community systems, to be reporting production delivery into the clearinghouse. And I illustrated a little timeline that kind of shows that. So for this year, 2022 eAR, we're going to have source inventory, source metering, source monitoring, backup sources, supply and delivery reporting into the eAR. And then in 2023, starting January and beyond, we'll be putting that information to the clearinghouse, annual source inventory information, quarterly water level and production by source, and supply and demand. So that's just a general overview. I'm going to go into drought reporting later on in the presentation, but I just wanted to let folks know about these changes as we go dive into these sections. Okay, next slide, please. So section 5, this is the source inventory for large water systems. So what you'll see on this page, what we consider, first of all, what we consider to be a large water system is defined as a community water system with more than 1,000 service connections or 3,300 residential population. So for these water systems with many sources, we just include a count of the total sources that are displayed there in column 1. So it lists total number of active sources, and it lists them by type, and it aggregates the number of sources that we have. And the list, if you want to see the individual list of sources that add up to those numbers, we actually have a header up there that shows the link to Public Drinking Water Watch that will allow you to actually view the individual sources that are tabulating. So if you come in and you say, well, shoot, I have 3 groundwater wells, not 2, you should be able to click into the Drinking Water Watch, you type in your water system number, and you should be able to find, oh, okay, that third one's not listed here. Let me get some help on that. So if there is a help button that says email for help on this section that's located at the bottom of the section, and that email for help will contact you or connect you with the local regulating agency, whether it's a district office or an LPA office. They're the ones that are able to make changes to your sources. And then that way, what is shown here is going to be more accurate. So please indicate to us any changes to the number of sources that you can put here. But if you're going to be adding or removing different sources, you're definitely going to want to notice your regulating agency for that. So here we have the fields of total number of new sources added in 2022. So obviously, if you don't have the right number, you're going to put that right number there. If any of those sources that we're listing as active were actually inactivated in 2022, you can list that number in that column. And the last column is number destroyed. So if that well was actually not just inactivated, but was destroyed, you can list that number in the third column. And so any misclassifications, anything like that, please notify your regulatory agency. Let's go on to one more thing about this one. There are some cases where you have a source that you consider to be an active source. However, you don't use it. and in which case, in our database, we're going to list it as an active source, but you haven't used it for 3 years. But maybe you keep up with the monitoring, maybe you run it every once in a while just to make sure it's fresh. It's considered an active source for you. We list it as active, but you maybe consider it inactive for your own purposes. So just so you know, it is a permitted active source. If you want to change the status of that source to inactive, that is a request for your regulating agency to be able to do. Hope that makes sense. Next slide, please. So for small water systems, they see something slightly a little bit more detailed, a little bit more different layout. Small water systems are community water systems and that are less than 1,000 service connections and 3,300 residents, as well as the non-community water systems. And here you can show individually, it will show every source, and you can indicate which sources may have changed, either in source activity or source availability. Activity would be things like whether it's active, pending or proposed, inactive. And then availability would be, is this permanently available? Is it only available maybe intermittently, seasonally, maybe just on an emergency basis, just on a standby basis? So that's where you'll be able to give us some of that information. So you'll see two tables. You'll see a table of groundwater sources, and you'll see a table of surface water sources. And then you'll be able to add any changes into that second table. So you have your groundwater source, any changes to the groundwater sources added into the second table. You have your surface water source, and any changes to any surface water source can be added into that fourth table. So yeah, if there's any misclassifications, again here, please let your regulating agency know, and the email for help on this section is listed in the bottom of the section. So the new part here is that header that allows folks to see where the data is supplied from. So if again, you need to look at Public Drinking Water Watch to see your list of systems, you will be able to click on that, enter your water system number, and be able to see your sources. Next slide, please. For this second half of the section for source inventory, this shows for all water systems, large and small. We have a number of questions. Some of these questions are related to SB 552 monitoring, some new statutes that came out that asked certain questions. So for that first question, when you have a source that's metered, typically you have the ability of measuring the quantity of flow that's produced by the source. So most sources will actually include a flow meter that has a volume totalizer and a flow meter. So, having the meter is being able to meter your flow and also your volume totalizer. Hopefully it's both. So if all sources have the ability to meter and measure your water flow, your totalized water flow, not just your flow rate, but your totalized water flow. If all your sources have this ability, then click yes. But if one or more sources do not have this ability, we're asking you to click no. So hope that makes sense. We're just looking for that totalizer ability to measure the quantity of production that your source produces, in a given month. And so if you have the ability to do that, we want you to mark yes for all the sources, if all your sources have this ability. For the second question, we ask if you have equipment on hand to monitor groundwater levels at all your wells. Both of these, by the way, are required questions. So this question, an SB 552 requires small water suppliers to implement monitoring systems that are sufficient to detect production well groundwater levels. And a system, in our interpretation is interpreted as equipment that can allow you to routinely monitor your water level. But there's no requirement on any specific type of frequency on monitoring those static water levels. So yes is going to tell us that you do have the ability to monitor groundwater levels at all wells, right? We're not looking at necessarily surface water or maybe spring types that don't have this. This is specifically for groundwater wells. And if you put no, that means that you have one or more wells that cannot be monitored for water level. So, and obviously, if you don't have any wells, this question would not be applicable to you. And obviously, if the wells are something like horizontal wells or springs that don't have any water level to measure, then obviously that's not applicable as well. The last section here talks about standby source use. And standby sources really are specially permitted to allow usage of no more than 5 calendar days and 15 total calendar days of the month. And it's intended for short-term emergency use. So a standby source is not something that you just turn on when you need additional supply for the summer, right? For 2 months. This is really something that, you lost a well went dry, and you have special permission from your regulating agency to be able to use a source as a standby source. Another common standby source, not sure if it'll show here, but it's your emergency interties. Emergency interties are another standby source. You kind of use it on an emergency basis, but if you rely on it a little bit more permanently, it probably should be an actively permitted source. So you can talk to your regulatory agency about that. Okay, next slide, please. This is section 6 now, moving on to section 6. And this is subsection A1, which is the water supply and delivery section. And so the first set of questions that it asks you, obviously your units of measure, make sure you're consistent on units of measure so we don't have any errors, and then indicate whether they're estimated or actual volumes. And in the table, we're asking for you to add all of the water that is produced, all the water that's purchased, and all the water that's sold, if those situations all apply to you. There is a nice little checkbox where you can automatically populate a whole entire row or column, in fact, column with 0 if your water system does not produce that water type. And if water is indicated as sold to another PWS in that column F, then the table B for water deliveries will be displayed with the sum of these values in column J, where it says water sold to other PWS. So be sure to make this to use the same units of measure to report water production and water deliveries to avoid any errors. And we'll show a little bit more about the other table for water deliveries. So those two tables are linked. Let's go on to the next slide, and I'll show the water delivery volumes. So in this section, you'll see a lot of salmon colored fields that are conditionally required because it's only required if you've answered yes to certain questions. So new for this survey is that we hide this table by default. So you may not see it if you jump here right away. If your water system reports metered service connections of any type in section 4, or if water is sold in table A1, then this table is shown. If your system delivery volumes are not metered, then you also have the ability to mark the checkbox above. But if you do mark that, we are asking at the bottom of the table that you include a reason, in the text box of why you weren't able to do that. So we have no record keeping. It'll show no record keeping of metered delivery volumes, and then you'll have a little explanation text in the bottom. If your water system did not deliver to a specific type of connection, you can actually use that checkbox. You can click it, and then it'll pre-populate that whole column with zeros. And last slide that I have is this next one. This is subsection A23. This is going to show water purchased, sold, or transferred, and it's going to show recycled water supplied. So we have changed this to more closely match the public drinking water watch display for water purchased or sold listed by source facilities. And we've updated the header text with details about where the source of the pre-filled data comes from and instructions to report. So if you want to, again, look at public drinking water watch and see what the list of sold and purchased water is, you can obviously review that information there. But this will be pre-populated here. And if a source is pre-filled, then just use the column on the right to record whether the source was used or wasn't used during the 2022 calendar year. And again, if you don't see the source listed on your, hey, I'm sure I buy for this person, but maybe we're not aware of it. So that's something that we can then add into the district if you contact your district or LPA. And you can use that, again, that helpful link, email for help on this section at the bottom of the section in order to contact them. So there might be a little bit of confusion here because the second column says the water system facility ID, name, and for some of them, it might show blank. And you're like, well, I certainly know where I'm, buying it from. But if it doesn't show in the second column, it actually may show in column 6. So it exists in 2 different tables. So that's why they had to pull out separately here. So if you don't see it on column 2, don't worry, don't be alarmed. It might actually show up in column 6 instead. So that is what we were noticing during testing. So I hope that helps. That is it for me. So I'm going to pass it on to Stephen Burke.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, everybody. I'm Stephen Burke, and let's see. Showing my video. I don't know. All right. So I'll just be presenting on section 7, recycled water. Next slide. All right. So in section 7, it's pretty similar to past years. We've got the one question for water systems to respond to, whether the water system has recycled water facilities in its service area. And so that means that they're providing water system to another utility that it's recycled water. So you can answer yes, no, or don't know, and that will determine the hide show logic for the remainder of the section. Next slide. If you're reporting that you do have recycled water use sites, then we're going to go ahead and provide the screen here, very similar to past years. What we're doing is we're trying to capture the number of approved sites that are in the water system distribution area, and then the changes that have happened year over year. We did have a typo that was found in column 3 for the number of sites proposed for 2023. That should be updated this week, but keeping in mind that proposed, it means for this current calendar year in column 3. And then please provide recycled water coordinator information and contact information below. Next slide. Thank you.
I just took a little break to clear my throat, and now I'm back. Thanks, Stephen. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide, and we'll talk a little bit more. I saw some questions in the Q&A about the clearinghouse. What is it? Never heard of this before. Certainly the folks that are doing the eAR are a lot of the same folks that might be asked to do the same reporting in the clearinghouse that you've been used to, especially the folks that are attending this meeting that are used to reporting this information. So the clearinghouse drought reporting, and we'll include a link in the resources at the end. The clearinghouse drought reporting, we've put drought reporting into the Safer Clearinghouse. So you might know of it as the Safer Clearinghouse. You might know that's the clearinghouse, the Safer drought reporting. There's a couple names for it now. We're just calling it clearinghouse drought reporting for now. And if you're a community water system or a non-transient non-community school, you would have already been asked to create an account in our clearinghouse. The clearinghouse address is very simple. It's drought.waterboards.ca.gov. And I'll have a link at the end of this to the website that kind of gives more information, gives user videos, training videos, presentation slides, FAQs, user guides, things like that. So I'll include that link to make sure folks are understanding about that. So when you actually create the account, you're actually going to see a number of tabs. Most community water systems will only see the first 3 tabs listed here, the first 3 sections: water shortage, source reporting, and supply and demand tabs. And so most systems will only see those, but large urban retail water suppliers and potentially drought impacted systems would also see 2 additional tabs, which are called supply augmentation and demand reduction. And most folks are actually, the urbans are already reporting that on a monthly basis, monthly conservation reporting through our drink portal. And so there's some other reporting that's also going to be folded over into the drought reporting in the clearinghouse as well. So I just wanted to mention that this is the general information that is being reported into the clearinghouse. So let's talk a little bit more about frequencies, which is the next slide. So most community water systems will actually be reporting on a quarterly basis in monthly snapshots. Everything's done around monthly reporting periods, but we have quarterly due dates. Some of the feedback that we had received in previous eAR input forums and stakeholder groups is that it's a lot of data to put in once a year, and it requires a lot of time and a lot of different departments, a lot of recovering data from a whole year, like a year and a half ago, right? And so because of that, we felt it was easier to have monthly data entered quarterly, and you get to review it every quarter. And then by the end of the year, what you're doing right now in the eAR is going to be a simple review it, make sure it makes sense from what you entered throughout the year, and then you hit submit. So there's actually going to be no annual entry. It's just going to be an annual review of the information that you were already putting in. So we did listen to some feedback that was generated on that, and we're happy to present that we are able to implement that feedback. So only large urban retail water suppliers and potentially drought impacted systems are actually going to see a monthly or weekly reporting period. And that's because monthly conservation reporting is already done on a monthly basis, and potentially drought impacted systems tend to be more on the emergency response side. And so they have to report a little bit more frequently. But you will definitely know if you fall into those groups. because there's very few that are actually drought impacted, and urban retail water suppliers already understand their current reporting requirements. And the last slide is really, if you have questions about general issues regarding the eAR, obviously we have our eAR email. But if you have questions related to drought reporting, especially drought reporting in the clearinghouse, safer drought reporting, whatever it may be, because that reporting has already started as of January. Our first due date is going to be April 30th for the first quarter of reporting. So that is coming up very, very soon. And we are working with folks to ensure that they are able to get their reports in. And to learn more, we can go to the Clearinghouse Drought and Conservation website, where you can find all those resources that I mentioned before. And that concludes that presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric, Stephen, and Jonathan. So as you can see for this slide, our next training is going to be April 19th at 11:30 to 1 p.m. Make sure that you guys register for it. And this is going to cover section 8. Next slide. And now is the time that we're going to open it up for comments, questions, any concerns. Remember, there's 2 options. You can either raise your hand, or also questions can be put in the chat box. Wendy?
Yep. So it looks like we do have a attendee raising their hand. I'm going to allow James Smith to talk. So please go ahead and unmute.
Done. Okay. Question was there was that first slide that you showed with dates was the April. Yeah. Keep going. eAR release date March 13th. That What does that mean? That means that we can't fill out the form until after the 13th.
Yes, that's when we go live with you being able to open your eAR report and enter information into it.
Okay, great. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question is, what is the difference between transient and non-transient? I asked this last time and didn't get an answer. And I was trying to provide you a chart. We have a chart on our public website that actually shows you how we classify community, transient, non-transient, and non-public water systems. But basically, it is dependent on whether you're classified as a public water system, and if you serve. Eric, you may be able to help me on this one.
Yeah, sure. I can help out. So we have so transient. You think about a population that you serve. You typically think about like a restaurant or a rest area or a hotel as having these transient people that come in, they drink the water, maybe use a restroom, wash their hands, and then they move on, and they may never drink that water ever again. So the definition we have is if you serve at over 25 people 60 days of the year, but they're not the same people, right? They're people come in and they may never come back. So it's 25 people for 60 days, that makes you a transient water system. Now, if those 25 people actually live there, now you're thinking about maybe like a camp where there's enough people like staffing it, maybe a hospital or an airport, something of that nature. Now you have more residential people that are drinking the same water for over 6 months of the year. And of course, a community, you got people living there, right? They're year-long residents drinking the same water. So they are regulated separately. They're treated differently. Transients, campgrounds, rest areas, and non-transients are people that actually reside at that place or drink the same water for over 6 months of the year. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Eric. I think that does. I'm also asking if someone can, on my staff, can paste that link in there if the attendee would like to review that diagram.
Yes,
Next.
it was done already, Wendy.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next person, Linda Willis. You're
Hi.
Hi.
I just need a little clarification. Am I understanding that we go on the Water Association website to report the eAR, and then we go on the Clearinghouse website to report about the drought issue?
I can feel
Yeah.
that. So there's a separation because of different needs, right? So we have SB 552, which required us to get more source individual information that was not currently being collected in the eAR. We're talking about per source information for small water suppliers, less than 3,000 service connections. And then we had competing priorities where we had monthly conservation reporting, where urban water suppliers were sending supply and delivery information on a monthly basis to another portal. So in order to kind of consolidate this reporting, we had to decide, we either fit and shoehorn all this into eAR, make eAR longer and harder, probably harder to fill out. It's already got, a lot of tabs, or we could just create it separately in the clearinghouse, put a monthly sort of snapshots on a quarterly basis monitoring, and that's where we've decided to put it. So this is not necessarily just drought reporting anymore. This is drought and conservation reporting. So it's intended to be here with or without a drought. This is, drought is a California way of life now, and conservation is a part of that as well. And so supply and delivery, just imagine sections 5 and section 6 being pulled over, and even some of section 17 being pulled over into the safer clearinghouse.
Okay, so we report in the Clearinghouse monthly, and annually we report on the eAR in the Water Association website. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. So the eAR is going to stay. There's an eAR this year, and next year there's going to be an eAR. The difference of next year's eAR is that you're going to have less data in the eAR to have to report, because that information you've already been reporting quarterly in the clearinghouse.
Oh, so it's monthly and quarterly in the clearinghouse.
So it's quarterly. You can always do it monthly because every month a report is available, but those monthly reports are not due until the end of the quarter.
Okay, all right. Kind of makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, no
Great.
problem.
Thank you. And Linda, please make sure you lower your hand. And James, do you have another question? No. Okay. Okay, next question I have is section B, well monitoring. If you contract the monitoring of the static level, would this question be answered as yes here? And so that was, I'm trying to find it. Is this it? Can't see. Oops, where am I?
You passed it.
Okay. This one?
And now one more. There it is. I saw it just now.
One more?
One more forward.
Forward?
There it is.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, there it is. So it says, do you routinely monitor the static water levels in your water? So yes, it's not just you, it's you or someone that you contract to routinely monitor the static water levels. We'll accept either.
Okay. We have different units of production MGD and delivered 100 cubic feet. Can we continue this? Anybody want to?
Stephen, I think you were talking about this earlier. I believe you mentioned that it's only if they are selling to a public water system, and that's going to show up in the delivery that you have to use the same units. But if there's no sale, can you confirm that, Stephen?
Yeah, no problem, Eric. So what Eric was just referring to is section. So let me just make sure I had this question correct from you, Wendy. It was that related to section 6, the water delivery.
6 right here.
Yeah.
Units of measure right here.
Yeah, so you have units of measure in table A1, which has to do with the water production from your sources. And then the units of measure that are reported here should match the units of measure in table B, water deliveries, if you are a water seller of potable or non-potable water. actually, I guess you can just say it's a producer of sold water. So if you're producing water to sell, that water is being reported in table A1, and it will be pre-filled as water sold to another water system. You can go to the next slide, Wendy, on the screen. So the water sold will populate the column on the right in table B, which is the water delivered to other water systems. So we want to make sure we have the same units of measure if reporting these volumes for the 2022 calendar year.
And I hope that answered the question. Next question, our section A2 is blank. When it should have been pre-filled, how do we handle this? A2.
The next one,
Next one.
Yeah, this one.
Okay.
And then at the bottom of the section, there's actually, so Eric might have mentioned this when he was presenting. At the bottom of the section, there's a email for help in this section link. And that's the easiest way to get in contact with your reviewing field office. So what they can do is they can look at your source buyer-seller relationship. And if you tell them what's missing, they can go ahead and make sure they review what's in our database. And if anything needs to be updated, then that can happen. Alternatively, you can give them a call using the field office contact information map.
And then Linda, do you still have a question?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you call me.
That's okay.
Yeah. Is there a place to go on to be able to print out this report in its entirety so that I could share it with the other members of my board?
Stephen?
We have what's called the template, which is the eAR in its entirety. The only thing is that it's not going to be custom. So there's two options, I guess I should say. You have the template, which is the total eAR for, it's like all the questions. It's just the entire thing. It may not be specific to your water system needs. That's one way of getting it. And we can, so if you want to request a copy of that from either your reviewer, field office, or from us as the administrators, we can send you a copy of the template, which is just a PDF, about 26 pages long. Conversely, if you wanted, you could print it out. You can actually go through the eAR and make sure you hit every single section. It's really important. If you don't go visit the section, it won't render in the print to PDF. And so after you go ahead and visit every section, you can actually go view the summary, and the summary will give you that total eAR specific to your water system. And on the bottom of that, you can print to PDF, and then you can distribute that to your team.
I'd like to request that you send me the template.
Sure. Yeah. Do you mind sending an email to ddw-ear@waterboards.ca.gov?
Okay, hold on. DDW. Say again.
ddw-ear
Okay.
at waterboards.ca.gov.
Anybody's particular attention?
There's a team of us. Yeah, everyone on the presentation today. There's 3 of us that are on the team.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Make sure you lower your hand when you're done. Thanks. Kim Bennett.
Oh, hello. Just a couple things. I think you already answered it. I wanted to clarify that the clearinghouse is a separate reporting requirement from the eAR. I think I heard you already answer that.
Okay.
And then I also wasn't seeing those links in the chat or even the question about the classification of water systems. Is the decision tree that's on the website,
Yes,
going to be
that
set
is
up?
it.
That
Mhm.
is it. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, and go ahead and lower your hand too if you're done. Thank you. Okay, next question. Sorry if this was asked already, but in section 4 for urban water suppliers, there used to be a place to include multiple public water system IDs separated by commas. This box no longer appears, so does all the water systems need to fill this out separately? I ask because we have 38 systems. Last year I filled this out for all our systems. And I believe, Stephen, that was removed.
Correct. And I want to mention that it was removed, and I believe Eric might be able to speak to it. I believe the clearinghouse he mentioned is related to conservation. And I do believe there is an element of that that's trying to use the data that was reported last year to identify which water systems are part of a larger urban water supplier so that we can go ahead and streamline that process, beginning with clearinghouse. And then, like Eric mentioned, we will hopefully have a way of breaking that into the eAR for your guys' convenience.
That's correct. So one of the things that we're actively in development for and should be released for the month of April is going to be aggregated reporting in the clearinghouse. So when folks are entering their monthly data, they're going to have the option of reporting to an aggregated list of systems that are part of the same urban water supplier org ID. And so that list of systems is going to see one question where it makes sense. And then there's some stuff that we need individually by PWS ID. Obviously, source level information is only going to make sense per water system. Some questions only make sense per water system. So some of them will be per water system and some of them will be aggregated where you answer one question and it answers it for everything under your org ID. So we are in active development on that. We have gotten a lot of feedback on it. ORPP, who gets this information and uses it, they've also been interested in getting this to work really well. And I'm pleased to say that it is almost done and it should be ready for April reporting. But you're not going to see it in the eAR because it doesn't make sense to build it in both places as of now. So hopefully a lot of that will come in there, and you're welcome to provide any feedback on how that's working or not working for you so we can continue to build a more user-friendly interface.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and answer this next question. This is a person who regulates a naval air facility and their population fluctuates throughout the year. They use a estimated population method from residential dwellings, RV parks, lodging, and subcontractors. Can I use multiple population methods to determine my installation population? Actually, I would highly recommend that you contact your regulating agency, meaning your district office staff member, and talk to them about your population determination, because we do a population migration at the end of our eAR reporting period, and this could cause some problems if numbers go below a threshold. So please call your regulating agency and talk to them about what number you should be putting into your population. Field. Next question. When I hover my mouse over the question mark, the help tips. This person's talking about the help tips. When you have a little question mark next to, like you see on the slide here, next to recycle water, you have a little question. A pop-up with information pops up. They would like to be able to share this data with other staff. If there's another location, I can find the explanation for each question. We currently don't have it available on our website. Right now, my best offer is to, again, like the other attendee, send a request via our ddw-ear@waterboards.ca.gov email requesting a list of help tips. And I believe we have that list, Stephen. Is that correct?
The list of help tips you're saying?
Yeah.
Not for 2022 reporting year, not in a total compilation.
Oh, I thought we did. Sorry.
No, not
Okay.
no, we're trying to we're
Bummer.
it's on the to-do list. Yeah, we have last year's, and last
Oh,
year was
last-
largely, yeah, and that's the one
Okay.
that's a full printout of
Bummer.
it all.
Okay. Sorry. We'll put this on our to-do list. And then and talk about maybe putting it on our website in the near future for that. Okay. I'll answer type that question out. Just to clarify, please correct. Michelle, just to clarify, please correct. I don't know what this one means. Oh, our monthly conservation reports can now be reported quarterly in the Clearinghouse Drought website due April 30th. If so, we no longer need to report the monthly conservation on the monthly conservation website we have been doing for 5+ years. Oh, and then Eric, you typed an answer.
I did. I was about to send it, but I think it's worth
ahead.
repeating for everybody. So ORPP is the one that collects that information for the monthly conservation reporting, and they're going to notify you when you're no longer expected to report via the drink portal for the monthly conservation reporting, and instead to report that into the clearinghouse. At which time we will change that quarterly frequency for urban water suppliers only from quarterly to monthly to match what you've already been doing for those 5 years. So quarterly is actually the frequency for non-urban water suppliers, and monthly is the frequency that we have for urban water suppliers. And that's going to start, we expect that it'll start in the April 2023 reporting period. And we'll give you guys more information as that date comes closer. Thanks.
Someone asked about recordings being posted on the website. Yes, these will be posted on our website under eAR technical resources in the next few weeks. There's a lot of questions being answered, so I'm still trying to. Chat is not. Yeah, we turned off chat. Sorry, Jeannie. And Eric, I see you just answered a question. Am I supposed to read that one?
You can move on. I think it's a duplicate.
Okay. A comment. The help tips were better in last year's report. This year, many are just reiteration of what is already on the page. Thank you, Jennifer. When reporting the drought report, can we use the meter reading number off the wild eye meter reading number?
I just wanted to mention that I don't want to derail like the eAR side of the presentation with drought reporting questions. However, we do brown bag training webinars specifically for the drought report that you're mentioning. And actually a specific question like that probably is better emailed to us so we can work through you on what exactly the wild eye meter reading number actually means and if that makes sense in the reporting. But I just don't want to take up the eAR time to answer those questions. Please do join our webinars and also send us a question individually if you want to know how best to answer that question.
Thank you. I can't find any paperwork on the drilling of our source well. Is there a public information source for this information? Yes.
So actually on the same on the same website that we have our drought and conservation reporting, we actually have some resources that we are putting on there because a lot of folks need to find their well completion reports or their well drilling reports, which the Department of Water Resources stores in an electronic database. and they do provide assistance to be able to locate that. So I have some resources in there on monitoring of the well, but if you need the well completion reports, the well drilling reports, you can just send us an email, ddw-drought@waterboards.ca.gov. And if you send us an email, we will send you the resources for how to ask for DWR to help find these well drilling reports. And they're developing a process where they're going to help people figure out how to, they might help some people monitor their wells in some cases where it makes sense, and they might help folks locate their well drilling reports. So the information is available, and it would probably be very good for you to have if it's not already in a document that we've already issued, like a drinking water permit. Hope that helps.
Great. Looks like I am done with my questions. If there are any other questions, please type them in now. Oh, one more came in. This is more reporting. Send the resources. Does not make it easy. There is a lot of new information being requested overall.
I guess I could feel that it's really related to drought reporting. And again, you can send any specific feedback that you have there about what you don't feel like needs to be reported. The biggest change I would mention is that we are taking, instead of filling out a supply table and tabulating, hey, this is all my surface water, this is all my groundwater, this is all my sold water. Instead of doing that, you're going to be asked to report that on a source basis. So every source will have an amount, and that amount is going to pre-populate that supply tab. So it's an extra step of extraction that actually allows us to utilize source individual information to do things like source evaluation, for reporting for other people that need reporting, such as groundwater sustainability agencies, such as CPUC reporting, DWR reporting, other groundwater well evaluations of other dry domestic well susceptibility for going dry. So there's a lot of uses for that data. That's the new reporting period. A lot of the other reporting periods, you can either mark not available, and you don't have to submit it with the report, and you can still satisfy the requirements for completing the report, or it's optional and does not need to be submitted in order to submit a report. So I think what you'll find is once you actually get through the report, figure out what's actually required and what does not need to be included in the report, you'll find, I think it's a whole lot simpler than maybe it appears. Hope that helps.
Okay. Someone's asking to put the DWR address in the chat. The email contact for drilling and permit info. Do you have that?
I'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you. And then major changes, I'm assuming they're talking about this year's report. Major changes since last year's report. Stephen, I don't think we have too many, but I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, no, if there's anything that stands out as unusual from year over year, please send us an email. Let us know what you're seeing. There could be a reason why it's different, and we can definitely try to explain. Each water system gets a custom design. So based on how your water system is classified, the size of your water system, a few other criteria, that will actually determine what you're going to see on the eAR survey. And so again, if you do see something different, just reach out to us. We can definitely investigate the water system and make sure that if you're seeing something different year over year, we can try to figure out why that is.
Yeah, I think you maybe misunderstood my question. What major changes did we do this year?
For section 5, 6, and 7, there was no significant changes.
No significant changes. And just for everybody, if you plan on attending future brown bag trainings that we'll have for reporters here in the next month, each section that we're presenting on, we are reporting if there's any major changes to those sections. We decided this year to cut them up into sections so that we can provide that to reporters online in videos and whatnot, so that they don't have to go through a 4-hour video or however long it may be. But but I know one big thing that we did was, and it was noted with the help tips, the little question marks next to the sections or questions, that we made those in survey. And when you click on it, it only relates to that section. It's not a whole list of the help tips when you click on it. So it's specific to that question or section. That was one big change I know that we did this year. But again, like I said, these sections that we reported on today, there were no major changes. Are there any further questions? And to answer the question, will the report continue to be the same or similar in the coming years? Our plan is there'll still be an eAR, it'll still look the same. Like Eric said, 5 and 6 are planning to go to clearinghouse. So, you know, there are things that are being added for next year and taken out for next year. So there'll be some changes, but no major. I don't believe there's going to be any major like platform change or, you know, look. Well, it kind of looks like it might conclude our brown bag training for today. If anybody, I'll just do one last call for hands raised or questions. Oopsies. Okay. Oh, we got a hand raised. Lisa Strickland. You're unmuted. Do you have a question or a comment? And if you do, we can't hear you. You want to go ahead and ask in the question box or put a comment in the question box? Okay, I didn't see any questions come over. Like to remind everybody, oops, there it did. Okay. Historic information from two came. Cool. Historic information from previous years is inaccurate. For example, our agency address, when we change it each year, the old address keeps coming listed. Yes, that is actually a function of you need to contact your regulating agency because the information that they have in our database is not matching the address that you're providing. So contact your regulator and ask them to change that address in our database or records so that it gets pre-populated with the correct address.
I believe you can also refer to the address they're seeing is Public Drinking Water Watch.
Oh, right. Public drinking water. And also, when you are going through your eAR and you have an issue for that particular section where that email address is, it goes directly to your regulator. So you could type in, hey, our old address keeps being pre-populated with the wrong address. Please make note and change, and it will go directly to them. So can you please remind me where we can find the brown bag presentations? The recordings of the brown bag presentations will be in the, let me find the screen. It will be in the, right here in the eAR technical assistance resources. And there'll be a link right here. And then to register is on the main page of the website. Next question. Oh, sorry, Lisa, you were unable. I missed the first part, so I need to know why the original PDF I print for each team member ends up not having all the information needed. Once questions are answered, more questions populate. So Stephen, it seems to be a PDF print issue.
Yeah, so I think that I mentioned this earlier. When you visit the section, then that's when the section will render on the summary PDF. So if you do not visit the section, like let's say you just open the eAR, you start with section 1, and then you try to print that eAR, you're really just going to print section 1. You need to visit each section in order to get a rendering of the entire survey for the 2022 reporting year survey.
And Lisa, I hope that answered your question.
If you rather,
Okay.
Lisa, you can always request a template from us if you need just like a template. I think I recognize your name in past years, so you can always just reach out and we can drop you a template that summarizes the whole eAR for your convenience.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up today. And thank you all for joining. And we look forward to seeing you on April 19th at the same time. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day.